Welcome back. Here are the promised next steps that we will cover in this module. I want to tell you about some opportunities for more instruction. I want to show you a few more tools that you should know about that we didn't have time to incorporate more fully into this intro class. And finally, I want to make sure you know that there is more than just one of me. That is to say, there is more than one librarian here at LLS to help you with your research while you are here and beyond. So let's get started. First, I wanted to talk about the category of more instruction. So we have an additional class for you to take in the hybrid format. It's called Core Legal Research. It's available to you starting in your third year on the hybrid schedule. If you're feeling a little unsure at that point, it's been a while since this class by that point, and you want 7 more weeks of research instruction and practice, this class is for you. It's asynchronous, 1 credit, pass, no pass, and it will give you that refresher that you'll probably be needing at that point in time. If you decide to branch outside of the hybrid schedule once you hit your third year, and you're able to attend some in-person classes during the day, we have 3 other options for you. The Fundamentals for the Litigator and Research for Transactional are both 1 unit pass no pass classes, just like the Core Legal Research class is, but you can only take one of our 1 unit classes. So if you do take Core, you won't be able to take either of these. However, if you love legal research and you want to become an absolute pro, you could take Advanced Legal Research, which is our 2 unit graded class, a full 14 weeks, and you can take that with or without having already taken one of the 1 unit classes. Another opportunity for instruction is our Prepare to Practice series. These workshops were actually built for the 1Ls who took this class in the fall. They forgot it all already and they need a refresh. So unlike you right now, their secondary sources and case finding skills are not so fresh. The topics that are covered in this Prepare to Practice series are included in a research guide. Same place you find the secondary sources research guide that you know and love. So you can always come back for a tune-up because that guide will be there if you need a tune-up on secondary sources or a case law research a semester down the line or more. You can see that the research guide looks like this. It has a lot of topics at the top that you can browse, and then there's tabs for the workshops below. Here is a screenshot with those tabs built out for the 2025 workshops. The 2026 ones are happening now or recently, so those tabs are being built out and are coming soon. Prepare to Practice is not the only research guide that I would categorize as instructional. So you can access all of our research guides from our main library homepage. And just to point out some that I think of as instructional, here is Prepare to Practice. We have 2 research guides on legislative history. This one's on dockets. And here is the secondary sources guide that we've been using a lot. And finally, tucked into this research assistant guide is some helpful instructional stuff like academic research. Also instructional are the vendor trainings. So these are done by representatives of the companies who can demonstrate some of the extra bells and whistles specific to their products. I recommend attending vendor trainings when you can because the more familiar you are with your tools, the better you can wield them. The more you know, the better, right? I also think it's important to recognize, however, that the reps who do these trainings have a sales agenda. Even if they're not the actual salespeople at their company, they have a sales agenda. They won't point out the shortcomings of their product. They will oversell things. And because, of course, they know you want shortcuts, they're going to promise you something about their product that provides the ultimate shortcut. Bottom line, I do think you benefit from vendor trainings as long as you attend them with a critical eye. And on to the next step, some more tools. Okay, quickly, before we get into that list, I do want to highlight our library catalog as it's an often overlooked tool. So you can access our library catalog from our library homepage. We have an advanced search button for some more options. And what you can do is search the catalog for print books that you can pick up off the shelf, for ebooks that you can read right then and there, for articles and more, including materials owned by the main campus library, the Hannon Library over on Westchester. Okay, for everything, for the broadest search that includes both LMU and LLS catalogs, you can check this radio button. If you know the name of your book or article, you can select title and search for it that way. And then you can click on search. You can look at your search results, and if it's available online, you can read it online. Make sure you do sign in so that you can access all of those resources that are behind the paywall that folks from the public can't get themselves into. Um, but this is a great utility, the library catalog is, for law review, if you work on law review, if you're a research assistant, if you're writing a seminar paper. Use the library catalog. It's a great place to get to the resources you need. All right, so more tools. Back to that list of Bloomberg, CEB, and litigation analytics. So we had you sign up for Lexis and Westlaw a long time ago, and you've been using it ever since. You may also remember that we had you sign up for Bloomberg and CEB Access Law and haven't had you use those recently. So we'll get to those right about now. First up, CEB Access Law. A quick introduction. We talked about it last module for practice guides, but as a review, it's yet another legal research database with secondary sources and primary law. The catch is that it's California only. California secondary sources, California primary law, but it is chock full of them. It's got over 150 California-based secondary sources. It's got extremely specific and practice-focused resources. It has primary law too, but just California. And then, as I mentioned previously, it provides 18 months of free use after graduation for all students who create their accounts while they're students here. All right, as just mentioned, you do have an account already. You created it at the start of the year. If for some reason you never did that, head on over to Brightspace and do that now. Once you log into CEB's platform, you'll notice the sources at the top to get to the different content. So secondary sources is right here, and the primary law is over here. Remember, it's just California, so no other state, not even federal here. And there's also a section called practitioner that is a lot like practical guidance in Lexis and Westlaw. Now, these are not something that we had time to explore in this class, although I wish we did. So this is me mentioning it right now. They are very popular resources full of obviously practical information. In Lexis, you'll see it over here underneath the research tab, which we've been using a lot. Practical guidance is right underneath it. In Westlaw, you have to click this sort of pull down menu and you'll see practical law at the top of it. And then back to CEB, which we were talking about, practitioner is at the top of that list. And again, in CEB, it's just California practical resources. Moving on to Bloomberg. You'll sign into Bloomberg with your own username and password. There's a forgot button if you forgot. Then once you're in, there are tabs all across the top, as well as a main search bar that you can just dive right into. If you're mapping Bloomberg Law onto what we've already learned this semester, you'll find secondary sources over here. Are these the same secondary sources that you saw in Westlaw and Lexis? No, each research platform has its own different secondary sources. You'll find some Bloomberg secondary sources listed in our secondary sources guide. Here's that guide. I clicked on employment law and you'll see a lot of Bloomberg law resources here at the top of that guide. And then statutes are here under laws, and cases are here under court opinions, and then under litigation. All of that just to show you not necessarily how I would go about searching it all. That's for another advanced class. But the beauty of teaching the 5 steps in the legal research process to you as a fundamental is that you can take those steps and then use them in any platform. So just to be clear, you should start in secondary sources if you're using Bloomberg, just like you would do in Westlaw and Lexis, and then expand the primary law that you find from there. Bloomberg also has practical guidance product. It's located here under practitioner tools. And then I did want to show you too a tool called litigation analytics, which brings us very nicely into our last item here in our list of more tools. So what is litigation analytics? Litigation analytic tools are available in Lexis, Westlaw, Bloomberg. They analyze data from past cases and from legal proceedings to help attorneys make decisions in their current cases. So the data that they analyze includes things like court dockets, court opinions, public records, and more. Things like you use it to generate reports on trends, court trends, things like, the number of cases and the timing of cases. You use it to gain like behavioral insight for judges, for opposing counsel, for experts, how their outcomes tend to be, how they rule generally on certain motions, certain verdicts, and more. All of that stuff can be gathered and generated as a report using a litigation analytics tool. So how do lawyers use them? They use it to learn how judges tend to rule in a case similar to the one they have. They use it to identify successful tactics on motions and arguments and typical outcomes of those things. How can you use them? Well, eventually, the same way other lawyers use them. But as a student, you can also use them for employment research to find out which firms represent a particular company, what kind of cases they typically do, and much more. So in Bloomberg Law, after you click on litigation analytics, you're going to keep your eye on that section below the main search bar. You'll have these tabs to choose from. You can select judge, you can select law firm, etc. And then you'll use the lower search bar for your terms, not the higher one. In Lexis, litigation analytics is on that left side of the main page under research, under practical guidance. It's got its own tab over there. And then the search bar is nicely intuitive in the Lexis litigation analytics product. In Westlaw, it's under content types litigation analytics. There's a specialty area for that. And then once you're there, you'll see that this top with the search bar underneath it looks a lot like the Bloomberg litigation analytics product. So you'll select law firms or judges, and then you'll do your search terms right there. All right, we are almost at the end of our content. Your last next step for now is the reference librarians. You are not on your own. You can contact our team of expert reference librarians in person. We do have evening hours at the reference desk on Monday nights for you. Or you can contact them by email. You can set up a Zoom appointment if you'd like a one-on-one. And I like to think of our research guides as extensions of our reference librarians too. They're the ones that author those guides, and you can have access to those 24/7 if you prefer more of a self-help approach. So some details about contacting our reference team are available on the library's website. They sometimes change, so this screenshot, just be aware, is a moment in time. You're going to want to check our website for the latest. And that's it. Congratulations. You are working on your assignment 7. Once you get that in, you are done with Intro to Legal Research. I'll post some additional videos here. To help you with some additional things, but I'll leave those as optional. And I hope that you have a wonderful end of your first year, and I hope that our paths cross often in the future. So bye for now.